Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at WION.com.
Stay connected with the world through WION. Like the page on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter for new alerts. Instagram for videos and images. And the website for the latest news, views and analysis. WIONews.com. World is one.
Gravitas tells you stories which others won't. And tonight we will tell you about this new strategic map that is being drawn.
They say your enemy's enemy is your friend. Is that the foundation of the new defense bridge between India and America?
This is what separates us from others who claim to be telling you global stories that matter. In the last 3 days, WION has been traveling across Syria. You are in Latakia city right now. Tell us, what is the situation on ground at Gravitas? We don't just tell you stories from selected countries from around the world.
2 years since the Myanmar military coup, the people of Myanmar continue to live in a nightmare.
Because it does not suit their propaganda, or because they are too scared to speak truth to power.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at WION.com.
A very good day to you and welcome to WION. We're broadcasting live from London this hour and you're with me, Katie Pilwing. Let's get to the headlines. Secret documents providing details of US and NATO plans to help prepare Ukraine for a spring offensive against Russia spills onto social media, says a New York Times report. The Pentagon said it is assessing the reported security breach. Israel responds to rocket fire from Lebanese soil, strikes Gaza and southern Lebanon. Netanyahu says the enemies will pay for acts of aggression. It's bad news for the world economy. IMF chief says growth for the next 5 years will stay around 3%. But the silver lining is India. The Indian economy expected to be a bright spot. India reports 6,050 new COVID cases, 13% higher than yesterday's tally. The total active cases stand at over 28,000. Christians around the world observe Good Friday as actors reenact the Passion of Jesus Christ. First to our top story today as unrest continues in France. Problems for the French President Emmanuel Macron are also piling on. Well, according to a poll, if the French presidential elections were held today, National Rally leader Marine Le Pen will defeat Macron. A poll by the BFM TV says Le Pen would win the first round of voting with 31% of the vote, with Macron at 23%, and the leftist leader Jean-Luc Mélenchon, who is also leading protests in many areas, will finish with 18.5% of the popular vote. Well, in the 2022 runoff, Macron defeated Le Pen by 59% to 41%. In the second round, Macron relied on Republican, Green and some leftist votes. But the poll suggests very few of these voters will now support him. The poll comes after French Prime Minister Elisabeth Borne used a special constitutional power to pass the unpopular bill without a vote. Now, the bill aims to raise the retirement age from 62 to 64. Now, the move, it triggered a nationwide wave of protests and riots. France witnessed one of the largest demonstrations with over 1 million people taking to the streets. Macron has made the proposed pension changes the key priority of his second term, as he argues that the reform is necessary to keep the pension system from diving into deficit. Well, Le Pen has continued to oppose the reforms while occasionally criticising some acts of vandalism by protesters. Okay, so let's just reiterate on the situation that has been going on in France, because it's much of a situation given that we have been concentrating on what's going on internationally with the French president, because he's been on the international stage urging China's Xi Jinping to bring Russia back to reason over the war in Ukraine. But it now seems that he's got his own problems back in France in regards to his popularity domestically. And this is something that we're concentrating in regards to this Guardian report that has revealed that he's not as popular as he once was. And if there was an election today, according to this poll anyway, it's likely that he wouldn't win. So it'd be very interesting to know what exactly would happen. Well, it's all in regards to, it's seemingly anyway, this pension reform. He's made this proposed pension change the key priority for his second term. So increasing that age from 62 to 64. And he's argued that the pension reform is necessary to keep the pension system from diving into deficit. Well, I believe we now have our correspondent with us now to give us more details on this particular topic. Delighted to be joined by Natalie Margas. Thank you so much indeed. So, not as popular at home anymore.
There is a lot happening in France and specifically in Paris week after week, with thousands of people flooding into the streets against those pension reforms. And that is in part due to this popularity dip that we're seeing in the polls recently. That, of course, being Emmanuel Macron up against a former presidential hopeful, Marine Le Pen. We know from 2017, when Emmanuel Macron first ran for president and won, he won with 66% of the vote. And at the time, Marine Le Pen had secured about 34% of the vote. That has was again replicated back in 2022, just last year, with his re-election to president. But his popularity then already started to dip. And that's because, as we mentioned, it's this political temperature at the moment at fever pitch that all relates to the pension reforms, raising the pension age from 62 to 64 at the moment.
Natalie, is it all to do with the pension reform, though? Surely there must be something else going on as well.
Well, if you look at European politics at the moment and the role that France plays in it all, you can't ignore what's happening in Ukraine as well, and the position of France and Europe at the moment. So there's a lot that the electorate is considering at this time. We are also hearing from political analysts that it isn't just the fact that Marine Le Pen's popularity seems to be edging up over the last few weeks as a result of the government's pension reforms going ahead, and all of the protests that we are seeing in the streets week after week. In fact, just yesterday we had the 11th day of demonstrations, and next week there's another day penned in the diary for more protest action. We've heard from Marine Le Pen herself being reported as saying she strongly opposes these reforms. She's also condemned some of the violent acts and destruction that has gone paired with the protest action. She's been reported as saying that it's these reforms that have left somewhat of a window open for opposition parties to gain some power. It remains to be seen whether it's her and her National Rally Party that will be gaining some power. Political analysts say the electorate is also conscious of the fact that Marine Le Pen has some alleged ties to Vladimir Putin in Russia, and her somewhat muddled economic policy could pose a liability for her. So it's not just all sunshine and roses when comparing Le Pen and Macron at the moment, but to consider France's position in geopolitics, where France and Europe lies on the world stage at the moment, are all factors that the electorate is mulling over in their assessment of the French President Emmanuel Macron at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Lots to consider. Thank you so much. That's our correspondent, Natalie Margas, there, joining us live from Paris today. In a concerning security breach, classified war documents with secret US-NATO plans to help the Ukrainian military were leaked on social media platforms this week. Well, this is according to a post by the New York Times. The documents were also circulated on pro-Russian government channels. Well, the leak has left the Pentagon scrambling to assess the security breach. The report said the information in the documents is at least 5 weeks old. The most recent document is dated March the 1st. Now, this leak is the first Russian intelligence breakthrough that has been made public since the war began. White House Deputy Press Secretary Sabrina Singh said the Pentagon was aware of the breach and the department was reviewing the matter. Well, here's a look at what the leaked documents contain then. So one document, it summarised the training schedules of 12 Ukraine combat brigades. It said Ukraine needed 250 tanks and 350 mechanised weapons. One on the details of the expenditure rates for munitions under Ukraine military control, including the US-made HIMARS rocket systems. Another containing charts and details about weapons deliveries, battalion strengths, and other sensitive information. Well, the HIMARS rocket system, which the leaked papers mention, has proved to be highly effective against Russian forces. It can launch attacks against targets like ammunition dumps, infrastructure, and concentrated troops from a distance. The Pentagon has not said how quickly the Ukrainian troops are using up the HIMARS munition, but the leaked documents do. The report also quoted military analysts who said the leaked documents appeared to be modified in parts. They pointed fingers at Moscow and alleged this could be an effort at disinformation by the Russians. Well, one of the modified documents released by the Russians claimed that 16,000 to 17,500 Russian soldiers had been killed, whereas Ukraine had suffered the loss of 71,500 troops. However, the original Pentagon report stated that Russia had suffered far more casualties, with closer to 200,000 killed and injured.
Подякувати вам за те, що захищаєте державу, всіх нас, наш суверенітет, наші.
Okay, let's get to some UK stories now, because lawmakers here in Britain have been under constant checks ever since the Partygate scandal. Well, in the latest, ties between UK MPs and the gambling industry have come under fire. Well, according to a report by The Guardian, gambling firms and lobbyists have spent thousands of pounds on MPs, and the amount has increased tenfold in 5 years. According to data available on the UK parliamentary records, dozens of Labour and Conservative MPs received thousands of pounds worth of corporate hospitality in the past few years, and the amount was paid by some of the UK's biggest betting companies. Earlier, reports were published that Conservative MP Scott Benton offered to lobby ministers on behalf of the industry for money. Well, the industry spends tens of thousands of pounds, mainly on sport tickets for MPs. In an undercover expose by The Times, Benton called in favours from colleagues and offered easy access to ministers in return for £4,000. Currently, Benton is suspended from the Conservative Party. According to The Guardian analysis, in 2019, the biggest gambling companies and lobbyists spent about £8,000 on tickets to events for 6 MPs. And by 2021, the number of MPs rose to 25, and the industry spent about £114,000. In 2022, 36 MPs received around £87,000 worth of tickets. Well, this includes racing, football, and rugby. The figures have sparked concern among some in the UK Parliament as they reveal that the gambling industry has too much political power. Some Labour leaders are also calling for more regulations on gambling industries. But that's the one thing that the industry, though, is terrified of, as it's an industry where 10% of the customer makes 60% of the profits. Well, let's get more details now from our correspondent here in London, Alex Isaac. So tell us more. So it sounds great. MPs getting all these wonderful sport tickets. Lucky them.
Well, it's not just about gambling. The Guardian did focus on that only, but actually the issue with donations and potential lobbying has been an issue within both Labour, Conservative and others for many, many years. In fact, actually not too long ago, there was a huge sting into Labour donations, and it looked that most of the highest donations were from the unions, and that included Unite and GMB. There are two unions that have been those striking on the streets when it comes to trains and the nurses and the ambulances as well. So when it comes to the gambling industry, they are a private organisation, so of course they were going to be likely to be pushing their agenda. And of course both party members who receive these honours and gifts, shall we say, anything under £300 doesn't actually have to be acknowledged. So a lot of what was Benton was been saying in his sting, that as long as the tickets prices were under £295, he didn't need to declare them. The real issue here is the lobbying factor. In fact, if any person, a member of parliament, gets money from any industry, they actually can't lobby for 6 months, but they can lobby after that. Now, that is where the real concern is happening on the ground, and I think that is one thing that seems to be brushed over unfortunately, in a lot of these statements that are coming out. They give these huge figures, but ultimately, even if members of parliament are getting a small amount, they can still eventually lobby, and that does suggest that there may be a bias for not just the Conservative Party, but also all of the members of parliament.
Alex Izat in London, thank you so much. You're right to point out the lobbying factor really is the sort of centre piece of all of this. Thank you so much indeed. That's Alex Izat there in London for us reporting. Italy's data protection agency, Garante, has stated that ChatGPT producer OpenAI is planning to present measures to resolve data privacy concerns that sparked a temporarily Italian ban. So Garante said it has no intention of putting a brake on developing AI, all while reiterating the importance of respecting rules aimed at protecting the personal data of Italian and European citizens. More details in our next report.
OpenAI will propose measures to Italian authorities on Thursday to soothe concerns around its ChatGPT chatbot after it was banned in Italy last week. That's according to the country's data protection authorities. The Italian agency known as Garante accused the Microsoft-backed OpenAI of failing to check the age of ChatGPT users. It also said OpenAI did not have any legal basis that justified what authorities called the massive collection and storage of personal data to train the chatbot. OpenAI responded by stopping access to Italian users. Italian regulators said they had no intention of halting AI development, but they argued it was important to follow rules which protect the personal data of Italian and European citizens. In a video conference on Wednesday, OpenAI pledged to be more transparent about the way it handled user data and verified the ages of users. Italy's data authority said it would evaluate the proposals made by OpenAI. A source familiar with the matter said it would likely take several days to assess the contents of the letter.
OK, let's get some sport now. And Brooks Koepka firmly planted the live flag on the Augusta National on the day of the breakaway league suffered a major reversal in court. So Koepka shares the lead after the opening round of the Masters with the world number 3, John Rahm, and Norwegian as well, Victor Hovland. Well, Ra has he's won 3 times now, but had a horror start as he made a double bogey on the first hole. So the Spaniard, he turned it around with 3 birdies and an eagle on the front 9 before another 4 birdies followed on his final 6th hole for a second 7 under. Well, that matched the early pace set by Hovland, who never looked back after an eagle on the second and who went bogey free through his opening round of 7 under. This is his lowest round at a major championship. 4-time major winner Koepka had won Liv's Golf Orlando International on Sunday, and he went out around noon. He had 4 birdies on both the front and the back 9s, with just the solitary bogey on the 13th. There was an issue with a rules infringement, though, that burned the internet, but the Masters ruled Koepka caddy didn't break any rules.
Yeah, I think it was just the start. Got off to a good start. Anytime you're 200 through 3, that's a good start. So felt good. Kind of just piggybacked off that momentum, and very happy the way I played. Drove the ball really nicely. Left it in some good spots. Even missed quite a few putts. I think I missed a short one on 6, 8, 9, 10. So they were all kind of inside 10 feet, but could have been really low, but I'll take it. 7's pretty good.
If you're going to make a double or 4-putt or anything, might as well be the first hole, right? I guess 71 holes to make it up. After that, it was more, I was focused on the fact that all the strokes were good. The reads were good. The roll was good. Obviously, the speed was off on the first 2 putts. So once I kind of accepted that there was nothing really to look into, I just got to work. I had 17 holes to make up.
Scotty Scheffler is bidding to become just the 4th man to go back-to-back at Augusta National, and he is perfectly placed for a weekend charge after a round of 4 under with just the solitary bogey. The other member of the Big Three, though, failed to achieve liftoff in his quest for the Grand Slam, and that is Rory McIlroy. He had 3 bogeys and a double bogey in his round of even par, and yet again, he has a lot of ground to make up for at a major.
Yeah, just a little untidy in places. I missed a couple of tee shots left on 7 and 17 that I sort of got penalised for. Like an untidy bogey on 3, a 3-putt on 11. So just stuff like that. That's, it's not disastrous, but I just need to sort of tidy it all up. But I didn't feel like I was too far away today. I made 5 birdies, but just a couple of too many mistakes on the card.
Okay, let's finish up with some world news from entertainment now. So the Powerpuff Girls are back on Netflix, and this time the cartoon includes a formerly banned episode. So the notorious See Me, Feel Me, Know Me episode that honoured great rock heiress is now available on the OTT giant. So interesting to note that it never aired on the Cartoon Network and was not telecast at all in the US until 2009. Now, Cartoon Network explained that this particular episode was pulled because of some metal beams, destroyed buildings, looked like crosses, and one of the hippies in the episodes also looked like Jesus Christ. Well, the episode was shown in other countries around the world between 2003 and 2006. It eventually surfaced in the US on DVD. Now, since then, the episode has been available on digital platforms. However, the 2002 feature film, The Powerpuff Girls movie, isn't available on any platform, and Ukraine has had more than 100,000 killed and injured. Thank you so very much indeed for watching. You've been with me, Katie Pilgrim, here on WION for the last hour. Stay tuned to WION for more international news.
WION, now available.
Gravitas tells you stories which others won't. And tonight we will tell you about this new strategic map that is being drawn.
They say your enemy's enemy is your friend. Is that the foundation of the new defense bridge between India and America?
This is what separates us from others who claim to be telling you global stories that matter. In the last 3 days, WION has been traveling across Syria. You are in Latakia city right now. Tell us, what is the